Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I just wanted to do a very quick reading wrap up for April. It's the 2nd of May now, so we are into a new month, and I just wanted to wrap up all the books that I got to read in April. I had my most successful reading month of this year in April. Now before I tell you how many books I read, just bear in mind I have a full-time job, other hobbies, other commitments, so it's not going to be as high as some of the actual booktubers on here, but I'm very happy to say that I finished 5 books in April. Only one of these books was a physical book. I had one fully audiobook and then 2 Kindle books, and one I read between Kindle and audio, so I'm quite happy with that. I used to do kind of one a week always. That's been a struggle for me in the past year or two. So I kind of average 2 or 3 books a month, so 5 books this month is unbelievable for me. I'm so happy. I already know May is not going to be as successful, so I'm going to soak in the joy of April while I can. I'm going to be using Fable, of course, to help me remember and go through everything I read. I'm actually looking at my little graph for the year, and it's like I've done an extra one every month. So I did 2 books January, 3 books February, 4 books March, and now 5 books in April. I really wish I could keep this going to do 6 in May, but I just know that I'm not going to do that. Let's get started. I am going to tell you the book I read, how I read it, and what I rated it. Maybe as well as a small brief summary of how I felt about it. So the first book I finished in April was The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. This one actually features in a reading vlog. It was actually the first video I posted. It was trying to get this finished before I went away. This is a bit of a chunky book. It is not her latest book. I've read the latest book already, and then this one I skipped over because I was terrified to read this. The reason I was afraid to read this was when she released Never, which was the first book that I had read from her that wasn't part of the Magnolia Parks universe. I was so excited for that book because I was like, oh my god, I want to read everything this woman writes. And I read Never and I hated it. So when this one was released, I purchased it straight away, but it stayed on the TBR for a very long time. And then the next book she released after this one, which was The Time of Our Lives? Can't remember, hold on. Is it written in this? Oh, it's not going to be written in this because this one was released first, though. The Time of Your Life, maybe it was called. I read that one first because it is a smaller book, so I picked that one up one day and I loved that. This one I was skeptical about going into, but I really enjoyed this. I rated this one at 3.75 stars. There were elements of this that I did not like. One of which being the sober companion was not companioning the way I felt he should. I also felt like some of the family drama should have been a bigger deal and there should have been more resolution there than there was, and there wasn't. Those things throughout the book were bothering me, but I'm happy with 3.75. I struggle to give books ratings sometimes when they're by authors I love because I always feel like a little bit of connection to the book just because I like the author. So I do go back and forth with ratings sometimes, but I'm happy with my 3.75. I think I might reread this someday and see if it hits differently when I'm at a different stage in life. But this is the one and only a physical book that I read in April. After I read that book, I decided that going forward I wanted to make sure I had written even just small little reviews on Fable and Goodreads, because I track on both, for each book I read. So then I had kind of something to jog my memory for making these videos. So I just wanted to have something that I could read over, maybe read out, in case there were little things that I really liked or really hated about a book that I might have forgotten by the time it comes around to doing a wrap up. So the next book I read was on my Kindle. It was the 5th book in the Vancouver Storm series, The Wildcard. This had been a highly anticipated book in this series for everybody, I think, but me definitely. This was Jordan and, what's his name? Tate? I think it was Tate. I'm going with Tate anyway, if it's wrong. There's definitely somebody in this book called Tate, and I think it's this guy. So he's the coach anyway of the team. This was their book, and it's kind of been hinted at from the beginning in some ways. I rated The Wildcard as 4.5 stars. I loved the book. It just wasn't a 5-star for me. I'm going to read you what I wrote on my review. I said I absolutely love this book, highly anticipated from the very beginning of the series. No particular reason why I gave it 4.5 instead of 5, I just didn't get that 5-star feeling. A great couple, loved Jordan's personal growth from the beginning to the end. The last chapter felt like an Easter egg to maybe a spin-off series, and loved the 5 years later epilogue. There was kind of a relationship that was hinted at in one of the last scenes, or if not the last scene of the regular part of the book, so before we got to the epilogue, that I thought was like, that is a romance waiting to happen there. And I wonder, is there going to be a spin-off series? I actually don't know. I've not looked it up and I've not looked into it to see if that's something that's been announced. But I would love if there was a spin-off series, kind of like with the younger crowd. And there was a little Easter egg, little hint, so maybe. As I said, there's no real reason why it wasn't 5 stars. I just didn't get the 5-star feeling. I was thinking about the book all the time and I really wanted to read it even when I wasn't reading it, but I just didn't get that special feeling you get when you get a 5-star. The next book that I read in April was an audiobook that I read on Spotify. I kind of dip in and out of audiobooks, and my usual way of doing it is that I'll be listening to one book while reading a different book. This month I actually tried doing a bit of both of the same book, and that worked really well for me, so I might be trying to do that going forward. But the audiobook that I read in April was Part of Your World, which is the first book of the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. I have in the past couple of months been trying to get into Abby Jimenez because I'd never given her books a go, just because I felt like she had so many books out by the time I kind of discovered her that I didn't know where to start. I've already read the Friend Zone series, so now I'm obviously on Part of Your World. I haven't moved on to the second book because I ran out of listening hours on Spotify. This one was kind of cute and cozy in a way. There were just some aspects of it that were just a bit wild to me. It just didn't seem like it would be true, and that was kind of what held me back a little bit with this book. I did end up rating it 3.5 stars, and the review I wrote for it was, I enjoyed the little mini crossovers from the Friend Zone series, because you hear of some of the characters from then. Was an enjoyable plot, but some aspects were a little too unbelievable or far-fetched for me to rate it higher. I found the female main character to be a mix between forgettable and slightly unlikable in parts, because she really was. There were like elements of her that I was like, no. This review sounds negative, but I generally enjoyed the book. These are just some points I didn't. So it was a book, it was a romance book, the typical format. He lives in a small town, she doesn't. They have like different lives, different careers. That's where the name Part of Your World comes from, because they have to find a way to fit together. There were just some elements of it that I was like, you just wouldn't accept that, you just wouldn't do that if you were the particular characters. I am looking forward to continuing that series, because I do think, again, I know nothing about the future of the series, but I do think there is a romance from the small town part of it that is definitely going to happen. I don't know if it's book 2 or if it's later on, but I would like to see that one, because there were little teeny tiny crumbs. Then I went on and I picked up a book on my Kindle, and while I was reading it on my Kindle I also decided to listen to it on audiobook, and this is the first time I think I've ever done this where I'm listening and reading a book at the same time. I usually just do 2 different ones, but I found it to be really beneficial in getting a book completed. That's not always a priority for me. Sometimes it's just to be reading or to have different books on the go, but for this particular book I did just want to complete it. So I picked up Wild Love on my Kindle, and then I started listening to it with my Spotify audiobook hours, what I had left for the month. So I went back and forth. I would say I did about 50-50 between audiobook and Kindle, and I was really looking forward to this series. I love Elsie Silver. I loved the Chestnut Spring series. All of those books were just perfect. So I was really excited to like get stuck into a little cozy small town romance by this amazing author that I love, and I was so disappointed. This book was, in the nicest way possible, boring. It was just such an average read. It didn't feel like anything new. I felt like there were avenues that could have been explored that were just ignored. I liked the couple themselves. I'm happy with how it ended. I'm happy with everything that happened in it, but I just felt there could have been more. It was kind of like a happy ever after that should have been harder, in my opinion. There should have been some more issues, I think, sprinkled in. So I rated Wild Love 3 stars, and it was like a bang average 3 stars. And then after I read this one, I went straight into Wild Eyes, which is the second book in Rose Hill, and it was my final book of the month. And I had such high hopes going into Wild Eyes. My hopes were a little bit higher because I kind of felt like in every series when there's more than two books would be a duology, but in every series I feel like there is usually one book that you enjoy less than the others, and I just thought that maybe for this series it was just going to be Wild Love for me, and that I was going to enjoy the rest of them more. So when I started Wild Eyes, where our male main character is the brother of the female main character from Wild Love, I had thought that I was going to really enjoy this one because there were kind of little sprinklings of information about him in Wild Love and kind of his troubled past and all these things. So I was looking forward to learning a lot of information about his past and what he used to do and get up to. And while some things were revealed, one of them being that when he was a teenager he had fake IDs, didn't know that was anything too crazy. There was no big like twist, there was no shock factor to it, there was no revelation, some big massive confession that he had done something or that something was troubling him or something like, or anything like that. It was just bang average again. So I rated Wild Eyes 3 stars as well. This one actually bothered me more because while Wild Love had avenues it could have explored and didn't, Wild Eyes had avenues, roads, streets, cul-de-sacs, everything it could have explored. The female main character had so much that had been going on in her life previous to being in this small town that all of that should have been aired. Very little of it was actually aired and actually resolved, and that really bothered me because there was so much of it that needed, in my opinion, to be talked about and to be resolved, whether that be a happy resolution or not. So while I could have forgiven the lack of information about the male main character's past, just ignoring some of the stuff that the female character brought up that had happened was not okay for me. I really feel like it should have been explored. The kids in this book were so cute and adorable that they did kind of help with my enjoyment factor of the book. I like their personalities. I like that one of them is clearly suffering with his own little demons inside. Demons is probably the wrong word, but I ended up giving that one 3 stars as well, and that's what it deserves in my opinion. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours since I recorded the rest of this video, but just after I ended the last clip I looked at the time and realised I had 10 minutes to get to my nail appointment, so I had to skedaddle on out of here. These are my nails, but yeah, they're my nails, and this has been all the books I read in April, which was 5, 1 physical, 1 audio, 1 mix and 2 Kindle books. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing, it does make my day, and I will see you in the next one.